as you guys know, this is an ad hoc committee. It's a little less formal. We have, put this agenda together because this ad hoc committee's charge is to solicit input from the public. It's a little bit more formal than some of the other ad hocs that we've had, which are more. So that's why I put a public comment section in. That's why we're here in the council chamber, so we can Zoom it and so people can participate. Versus like we're doing our fire station, which is more just a small group that's going through some different things. But so that's, I figured that you guys would agree with that.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's why we're doing that. And so the next item is public comment. So
I'm
Deb.
seeing no hands online, but if anyone's online that wants to give public comment, you can raise your hand.
okay,
I think we're all set.
all right. And so
I'm sorry. We've got Jay Toolin.
okay. Hi, Jay.
Hi, how you doing? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Jay Toolin, 39 Timberline Drive. I just quickly want to say this is a subject I've been interested in going back to the Village Center meetings, Village Center Committee meetings several years ago. And I'm interested in the discussions you're going to have and what kind of conclusions you come up with during the course of your conversations about the sidewalk ordinance. That's it.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, Devin?
No one else online.
All right. So then the next thing is the charge of the committee, and we can have some general discussion. So obviously we have our ad hoc committee is, our idea is to review and look if we want to make any modifications to chapter 169 streets and sidewalks. And I think I left, everyone their sidewalk ordinance at their places. So we're going to work with us to look at the existing sidewalk ordinance and report community survey results and recommend ordinance changes to the town council. We'll be charged with the following. We're going to review the existing ordinance and study sidewalk ordinances in other towns, determine what percentage of the town currently has sidewalks, educate the community on the current ordinance and process, hold public meetings, create questions, and hire a consultant to survey the community to gauge interest in new sidewalks, a town-funded sidewalk program, and the community's willingness to pay. Develop and include cost estimates for various options of a town-funded sidewalk program, and work with the town planning and zoning commission and town departments as needed. Report back to the full town council on the results of the survey and community input. So again, sort of informal, and Russ is here too, because we both have a long history of this, and I've discussed it with you guys and with a lot of different councils. This is not easy.
Mhm.
This is not easy at all. This is going to be a process, and I'm not just saying that. It's just, it's complicated. Our ordinance is complicated. There's a lot of different factors that go with it. Is it fair, not fair? What's the cost? Is it a public good? How do we, there's a lot to go with it. And I think one of the things that I feel is that we need some basic information so that then we have that information and then we can survey the community, because we can't, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start making any substantial changes in this until we know what the community actually wants to do. And
Yeah.
I don't think we know that.
And how much are they aware of what's already existing?
Right. Exactly. And I think that I said it before, is that I think a lot of the people that we've heard from are people that want sidewalks, and the people that don't want sidewalks, we have not heard from. But I think there are people that don't want sidewalks and they don't want to pay for them, and they don't want to snowplow them, and they don't want to have insurance because if someone falls on them.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot to it. And, I thought, and Russ can chime in a little bit too about some of the things. I mean, we have this ordinance at which we really have not been following for 25 years. We haven't been following it for different reasons. And we have a lot of, like what I call a lot of things about how we do sidewalks that have just evolved. And I'll give you an example. So way back in the day, and I don't know, did it come before when this sidewalk ordinance was first created? When is it we're talking about? Adopted in 1954 and then amended in 1995. So whenever we first did it, is that, and it must have been when we were sidewalking the community, parts of it is that we have sidewalks that the town maintains that go to schools.
Mhm.
And we, as the town, maintain those sidewalks. So now it's kind of a weird, and I think that happened because back in the day, people didn't want sidewalks. They didn't want to do it. And so the town said it's a public good because it goes to a school. And so that the town staff does that.
It's also in the ordinance.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in the ordinance that some, but not all of them are like that. And so now, like, why did those people get that kind of privilege of having their sidewalk maintained because we're going to a school where there's a lot of other public goods in town that
Yeah.
we don't do?
Mm.
And we don't do all the sidewalks that go to all the schools.
Yeah, like anecdotally, there could be a sidewalk that leads to a public school that may have no school children that live on that street.
Right.
But it would still get taken care of. If
Right.
suddenly West District Road was not filled with school children, then. Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of like a one-off. Like now, again, this is like, what do we do later on? Do we grandfather those people? Like, is that fair? Is it not fair?
Mm.
Then we also, based on planning and zoning, and when I think that the intent was good, is that, you know, TPZ has said this development, we want to when you build this development, like Russ, when was your Highland neighborhood developed in the 70s? 50s. So you have one neighborhood, one street that has a sidewalk on one side of the road. 80s.
Is that
Yeah.
Rosewood? That's like the only crosswalk.
Yeah. The crosswalk has one side, has a sidewalk. It goes nowhere. And it's the only sidewalk around. And so it doesn't attach to anything. And so when you say, okay, what percentage of the town has sidewalks? Yes, that has a sidewalk, but it doesn't go anywhere. It does, and it's not two sides of the road. And is that really a public good to have that sidewalk there that takes no one anywhere?
Mm.
And we have, I think, quite a bit of that around, right, Rose? I mean,
It's not
Russ?
really a connector, it
Rose.
sounds like.
Right,
Rose, you got a new nickname?
Rose, Rose, us. So,
That's in the record, you know.
yes, yeah. So, and then later on in history, when we've done roads, we're not supposed to do sidewalks with the roads.
Mhm.
And so we haven't most of the time. But sometimes we have, because if the sidewalk, the grade is wrong, you can't build the road without tearing up the sidewalk and do it. So some roads, when we've done roads, historically, we don't do the sidewalk because you're not supposed to according to the ordinance. But some of them we have done the sidewalk, because if you don't do the sidewalk, you can't do the road right.
Hmm.
So again, we've done that because it was just, yeah, you had to do the road. Then later on, we've now got grants and we've done sidewalks if we can get a grant. And then but the town participates in the grant, and we've tried to keep them in the village centers. So we did Unionville Center and we did Farmington Center, both of them with grants, and both of them had existing sidewalks that were already there. And it was in a town center.
Just applied for a sidewalk grant, get it on up at Eli Road. Didn't pick some random area. The grants required to be in town center.
Right.
Or access to leading to a town center.
Right. So we've had that. We just recently did the Meadow Road one just because it goes to a school, it goes to trails. It seemed like a good opportunity, but
It's a connector.
and it's a connector, but I will tell you, that's gonna be a difficult one too, because when you peel the onion on that, we have questions that we have to answer on that, because we're gonna be putting down a sidewalk and there's people's homes there. And
Mhm.
according to our ordinance, we need to ask them if they want that sidewalk, and we can put it down. But now, are we maintaining that sidewalk or are they maintaining that sidewalk?
Yeah.
I'm maintaining it.
Yes.
Ted's
Yeah,
maintaining it. Yes, but again, we have to follow the ordinance, and this is different because this would be the first grant that we applied to where a sidewalk didn't exist. the ones in Main Street on both sides, the sidewalk already exists. So we were just repairing those sidewalks. Now this one is a new one and you follow our ordinance. We have to have public hearings. We have to, assess property owners. We're supposed to do all this type of things. So that's, again, we're going to work it out, but it doesn't match what our ordinance says. And we have that situation. Then we also have back in the day, we would have a sidewalk program where we would go out and someone would go out and look at all the sidewalks and they take it in quarters of the town, right? And they'd go through and you'd get a letter and it'd say, you have X amount of time to fix your sidewalk or we're going to assess your property. And that went over like a ton of bricks.
But that's in the ordinance as well.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that went over like a ton of bricks. And it's usually you need like 3 full-time people to run that type of a program. And then who's the subjective person that says this sidewalk actually needs repair? Like what's the standard? And then we have to hire a contract. Do we do it or not do it? And then
Is there a standard in the ordinance right now?
no,
Yeah.
Oh. What is the standard?
For sidewalk.
Yeah.
5-foot wide sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, but how about for if it looks like crap?
Like
Look-
why this one needs to be repaired
that's-
versus this
Well,
one.
so anything that.
Yeah.
Track, if it's unsafe, there's an elevation change.
Undulation.
Okay, yeah.
3/4 of an inch, okay, that's what, because it's just that, root growth is the number one thing, right, on most of these things.
Most, a lot of it is time, so
Yeah.
people put utilities in, gone by, replace utilities. You'll have a patch, if something has settled, there's a differential.
It's like that and weird water meters that are just randomly in the middle of,
Back in the day, who knows, that's where the thing was. And the sidewalk went over it, or.
Yeah.
But then if we need to access, so they take the sidewalk up, then raise it to grade, and that becomes a problem, so.
And, yeah, and then the other thing is too, is that just implementing that, and then even like, not only did we stop doing that for residents, we stopped doing it for the town because it was during the time where, again, sidewalks didn't rise up for the top priority. So if a sidewalk was in okay shape, or like a town sidewalk, we left it because we didn't have we weren't funding our own sidewalks. And so you're hard pressed to not fund your own sidewalks and then write letters to all the residents and say, fix yours. So again, there's a long history of a lot of the different things. And again, are we going to have sidewalks on 2 sides of the street? If we only have it on one side of the street, is it fair that only the people that live on that side of the street pay for that sidewalk and not both sides of the street? Because in towns that have sidewalk programs, typically you have sidewalks on both sides of the street. And again, or it's a public good. And like in West Hartford, it's a public good because almost the whole town has a sidewalk. So if you live up in the Highlands where you have no sidewalks, is it really fair that you're paying for sidewalks to get someone for a small portion of the town? Is that really a public good? Or is it more that you should be only paying for the sidewalks that are in your neighborhood? But does it make sense that if it takes you to a trail, that, maybe that's something that a town, it would be a public good. But then are we maintaining them? And then how do you deal with the person that did take care of their sidewalk and just replaced it? And now all of a sudden we're going to go through and replace some, as the town's going to replace the sidewalk. Is that really fair to that person? So there's a lot of different things.
so it's the first thing we should do is then. I mean, because we need to figure out how to get the information out, but it's, I guess, prioritize what parts, what's the first thing to check off, right? Are we like, would we be sending out one communicate if we were looking, because I know one of the things is to work with a company basically to educate people and then get feedback. So would this be an all-encompassing, say it was a mailer? I'm not saying that's what it'll be, but if it's a mailer, it's to say, we're just sending it out to address all of these things at once, right? So it's to say, do we want more sidewalks and how do we think the town should be handling repairs? Do we want a cost share or are we prioritizing or cutting that off and saying?
I think it's more general, like a philosophy. I think a survey company would be able to help us do that, but say, listen, what's your thought if we decided to run in more general terms, like what I would call a townwide sidewalk program. And you could get rid of, do the details of that. We just create a whole new ordinance that was like that.
Mhm.
But it's a townwide thing. The town's gonna pay for it. And we're gonna have sidewalks all through town, but your tax rate, your taxes are gonna go up X amount of time. And it's basically gonna be a whole program to sidewalk all of the community. Do you like that or not? You know, or do you think that potentially getting you sidewalks to neighborhoods to get you to the trail system? Like sort of a kind of a, like a very specific way to schools, to trails, to this.
Yeah, if there's like an equation that was like,
Yeah, a simplified network.
yeah, foot and car traffic plus trail equals, you know what I mean, where it makes sense.
Right.
It's that like a car count mixed with a
Right.
actual pedestrian count.
Right. And then I think the whole maintenance thing is a whole separate issue where we decide how much, like, to me, I think we need information in general, like how much of the town sidewalks, not town, I mean, all sidewalks need repair. And do we almost start fresh? Like, do we do, like, we go out and repair all the sidewalks? And then from this point forward, you're in charge of your own sidewalk
Yeah, but
again.
that's what I mean. In your opinion, is one of those two a greater priority, the repair or the new that's plan of
I would say it's there.
the repairs?
Yeah.
Having that, just the Highlands, for example. There's not a lot of sidewalk, a couple disjointed sections and possibly one by.
Isn't there one by Rosewood on the corner?
Short piece,
Yeah.
by the open space there.
Yeah.
Short piece there. It goes to a trail, so are you gonna put a sidewalk in Candlewood, up Highwood, down Knollwood, to Maplewood, Springwood to Rosewood to get to the trail?
Well, that's what I mean, where it's almost like you have to come up with an equation where it's like car count mixed with foot traffic, because in the Highlands, there's a million houses in the Highlands. But there's really not a lot of traffic,
Right.
like cut through traffic.
That's
If
right,
you're
that's
cutting through the
right.
Highlands, you're crazy. It's because there's something going on Route 4. It's like a one-off thing.
Exactly.
Oh.
Now, to me, the sidewalks that you have in place should be repaired and get updated.
Yeah.
And set to today's standard, done with it.
Hmm.
Then we would go and tackle, okay, where do we need to make the connections? Where do they, Meadow Road, is that, we're gonna make that connection, are we gonna make it up Copper Mine Road?
Oh, that's a great idea. I was gonna mention it.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is like, it's almost like we have to come up with a sidewalk plan, like we have a paving.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yep.
We have to do, but we have to start, the basis has to start at some level, to replace them all. Current sidewalks, because we have a mishmash, we have blacktop, we have concrete, we have some people have pavers.
Mhm.
I think, to me, we gotta go with a standard concrete
Mm.
sidewalk.
Woodruff is a good example of that.
Good.
Woodruff is a good example of that.
Woodruff and some people, we met with those, for a couple residents for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months.
Yep.
A year, maybe ended up replacing it themselves.
Mhm.
Well, it's even like Woodside Drive, I know, is like the first half is asphalt and then it switches over to concrete.
Right.
And both sections, they were built in the 80s.
Right.
No.
And then it just disappears.
Right.
And we have to do a section along Copper Mine by Woodside.
Yeah.
The west side of Lingle Avenue. That's falling apart. That needs to be replaced. It becomes a priority. So to me, the basis point is replace, get it all up to current standard, then go and figure out what the sidewalk program is going to entail for connections. While that's all going on, it's got to get funded. Right, so we have to fund the replacement. Then we have to come up with the ordinance of how we're gonna handle that. Meaning, are we gonna change the ordinance if we replace it? Are we just keeping, does this document remain in place?
Hmm.
Are we gonna change this document going forward? And as Catherine said, when we're doing Meadow Road, it's 5,400 feet of sidewalk and 2,600 of it roughly is private.
Yeah. Maybe that, or, if you ever get to a place where you are, like you said, like it's a paving project, maybe the thing you try to do is like split the baby, is you do like 50% of the time you're repairing somebody's sidewalk, and 50% of the time you're laying down new sidewalk, and you just sort of trench it out like that, and you kind of slowly get both. And then you got also got to figure out the ordinance and the cost. It's
Yeah.
a huge expense. I mean, I already know what we spend, we bond to pave. I remember rough estimate for like an average yard, it's like 8-10 grand, right, for an asphalt sidewalk? So you
It's
I
not
mean,
there, yeah.
just doing the math, I mean, that's a huge bonding project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, right, and then Russ, what do you, I mean, to me, you wonder, again, we'll take your crossword, right? Yeah. Do those people even want their sidewalks?
That's the other.
Hmm.
Some people, you walk on it for 1,400 feet, 1,200 feet, and then it just stops.
If it came all the way up to Knollwood, it might make sense, but the fact that it doesn't come all the way up to Knollwood,
Right.
because that's where it gets quiet, that's where you could, you know, I've walked Knollwood, it's safe enough to just be on the
But
street.
exactly,
Yeah.
but then you don't even, but then the road, then for whatever reason, sidewalk stops halfway down the road.
Right,
Doesn't
So that
stop.
safety is a factor then,
yeah,
that we should be looking at.
right, yeah,
But, so.
Yeah,
we need the Bible to tell us what we need to do and. they come
What's the
down with
criteria,
what we're
yeah.
saying With the survey, I think we need to come up and figure out our philosophy. What,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do with it?
right, and what do people want?
As we've said, I want a sidewalk, I don't wanna pay for it, and I don't want to have to maintain it and be responsible for it.
Hmm.
What's Hartford, talking with them years ago, there's sidewalk programs somewhere around $3 million a year.
Hmm. And where do people want to walk?
So.
Where does it
and
make sense?
With that $3 million a year, that's maintenance, so that's new
Maintenance and replacement.
maintenance and replacement, $3 million a year. I mean, it's obviously gonna be bigger than ours, but still.
But-
we'd be laying a lot of new stuff.
Right, because again, it all comes down to it. They maintain a lot of the center.
Yeah.
Right, so that's where they focus a lot of their money on. But we're more spread out. We're not a typical West Hartford, using West Hartford as an example.
We're not a grid.
We're not a grid, we're not set up like that, or we have a very different topography.
Yeah,
We have can't put sidewalks, we physically can't install them without putting in a retaining wall, or taking down rock, moving
Yeah.
utilities.
And I also-
that way.
and I've
Some
also
bridges.
watched, sat in TPZ meetings and watched developers make, you know, like Dominique's Court, I can remember their meeting at TPZ, and somebody from TPZ was like, hey, I would like you guys to put in a sidewalk, so you development want a sidewalk. And they were like, you know, it's 6 houses, you know, there's really, you know, sure, but is there really any need? And then they ended up not having to do it. I think that's a pretty reasonable standard, that like,
Well,
you know,
same thing with New Britain Avenue, right, across where. Come down, Cotton might take a left, the 700 block there, 800 block.
yeah.
Those houses went in, they requested a waiver not to put a sidewalk in, but where was it gonna go?
Yeah.
So you'd have a sidewalk where they cross, you would have a sidewalk for 700 feet. That doesn't connect to anything, you can't get to it unless you come down to Britain Avenue, get on the sidewalk, and then getting off.
Well, and I think, again, to setting the standard, there's a reasonable argument that we have this beautiful trail that runs the same distance, so you can get just about anywhere. I mean,
Right, but you can't get there.
Yeah, and that's something we've been talking about to me, one of the big things is that if you connect neighborhoods to the trail system. And that to me makes some sense to
Mm.
do that.
But it comes back to like keep saying before, it's the number of cars, you gotta look at traffic on. it.
Yeah.
Like Highwood Road, yeah, the people go fast on Highwood, sure they do compared to Tangled. So you do it, you walk it, you walk it, you know what you got. But I personally don't think putting in sidewalks in the Highlands is a benefit because everyone walks the neighborhood anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like-
Versus by having a sidewalk on Meadow Road.
Correct.
Hmm.
And
Correct.
Yeah.
Traffic block, we're back to
Yeah.
traffic block.
Right.
Hmm.
So that's my, so, yeah. Not gonna speak for the 400 homes in the Highlands as if it's sole representative, but
Yeah.
it's a neighborhood. When you're on Meadow Road, you have your traffic volume goes way up considerably compared to Knollwood.
Yeah, you don't want to be walking on the road, where at least back in the day, you walk in a neighborhood and you could walk on the side of the
no,
road.
there's a reasonable expectation that people should be in if they're in a 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood. If someone is driving, you know, then at that point, that's reckless driving. But if someone's, you know, banging the speed limit on Meadow Road, that's what, 35,
Right.
you know, 35 is quicker, there's a lot more turns, you know, and a lot more potential for bikes. And it's like that, you know, the old, you know, definition of whatever, like, you know, when you see it, it's like, you know, like I walk the Highlands, my son has baseball at the Highland, across the street, so I take my dog for walking the Highlands. It's a safe neighborhood to walk.
Right.
off the side.
You don't walk out there and go, boy, I hope I don't get hit today.
Correct, but if you were on Meadow Road,
Right, or Route 4 in the section.
Route 4,
that
sure.
don't have
Yeah.
sidewalk. Even though it's wide, you're contemplating like, I
Hmm.
gotta walk facing traffic.
Right. And where do you want to go?
Right, what are you getting to?
Where are you going?
That goes back to a couple of years ago, getting the connection from Unionville to Farmington. But it comes back to the same issue with Meadow Road. We're gonna put sidewalks in and people's property that. What benefit is it for them? More than the town does.
Unless they really want to walk, but you don't know till you ask them.
Well. If you live on Route 4 and I'm putting a sidewalk in front of your house, you're gonna go, great, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because now I get to maintain that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be responsible, again, according to this. Go through, I'm here to make you pay for it, right, because that's what the ordinance says, I'm gonna get assessed for it, I don't want it.
Hmm.
Like, what if somebody falls in front of me? Right? This is what comes up.
Right now, we. I don't need all of them, but like, what roads have we plowed? Like, I know you guys plow, the path to West District in the back there. So my paper chase, but
Irving A. Robbins going to Irving A. We do a sidewalk there, don't
Mhm.
we?
to
See-
Robbins,
Cross,
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
yeah, cross,
and then I assume do you do the
Down
front
here,
by
do right here.
or
We basically do any town-owned property.
any town or property?
right. But we also connect, right? Like there's ones that we do that's not town-owned property to get to town-owned property, right? Like we're like on East Farms
Hmm.
in front of the house right there, right? Don't we do all that? You know who I'm thinking about. We used to. All
Same.
right.
We bought that section,
Oh, we used to do it.
bought it for them to maintain.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Anyway,
And so that's done through with like, one of those like tractor,
With the John Deere mower, we
Yeah.
convert to the snow blower.
and then. On a scale of things that are logistically an incredible pain in the neck, like where's that rank doing those sidewalks?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that because under equipment or because of just moving the equipment?
no, you get there, you trailer it, and you go and you do it like. The problem, like, we have a section of sidewalk up in Oak Ridge. Yeah, that it's on open space.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, that corner, yeah.
Exactly, so we'll drive up there, we unload and do our couple sections. Load up and go to another section.
Yeah.
Where time wise, it's fine to put it on a truck and trailer it and get it there because you can go faster. But to me, it would make sense, but have them just start right at the park department, the park garage. And drive up Oak Ridge and plow the whole thing.
Well, yeah, because what do? You stop at that one guy's driveway right there? So that poor guy's like, oh, maybe this stays a day.
Right, but again, like, how do you put yourself in, like,
No, you gotta cut it off somewhere because if you drive to the.
Sorry, I
No,
got.
okay, well, if you drive to the corner, you can do 4 more houses, but then if you don't turn the corner, there's the other guy's like, hey, what about me?
Exactly.
So where do you cut it off?
and then you also look, then you also look silly too. Like, and that's the thing too, like, yeah, it's like government at its best. Then they go. And they
like
go,
Meadow Road is gonna be,
yeah,
because we own pockets of
yeah.
Meadow
Oh.
Road with some like private property, and it's, are we gonna go this, stop, go around, here, go around?
That's what you were getting, Kathy was saying, but I agree. Like,
Yeah.
it's- The functionality of it is troublesome.
But we don't plow the actual, like the flats though, right?
That's considered a trail.
Yes.
But that's town on road, right?
Yeah,
But
But-
that's.
I don't, I'm not advocating, I'm not trying to get you.
that's another, that's a whole other,
So that goes back.
I would
Call them all trails?
yeah, that's what we do. That's what we call that one a trail.
Back to Steve Bliss, the town manager. Back in like 81, they put a trail in, it's called a trail. To go across the flats, that's
Yeah.
why we don't maintain it.
Yeah, I think that's my point. I know it's town on road, it's not plowed. Fine, I literally walked it this morning, like, it's no big deal, like, I know as a resident, I'm like, God damn, why are they out here? Yeah,
And see, part of the problem with, like, again, people, when we first put the trail, people are like, you gotta plow the trail, you gotta plow the trail. I'm like, well, I got cross-country skiers. This and that. The biggest issue with plowing the trail is it becomes an icing issue.
Mhm.
It's encapsulated in the woods.
100%. I was on
Yeah.
the trail today too, same thing. There was some of the areas that were cleared a couple of days ago now have ice on them.
Yeah.
Right.
And so so now what are you spraying salt? And then what are you doing to the vegetation? And then what do you do? You know, so there's all
It's
this.
just, right, it just.
And,
everything-
we got a call recently about, again, a lot of runners want a section of the trail cleared so they can run. And we keep on saying the same thing, is that then it becomes a road. Then you're pre-treating it, you're out there all the time, and it's like, it's a full maintenance issue.
What level of expectation do you have at that point, right? I'm running it, you plowing it, and I slipped and fell.
You know, at some point you have to understand as someone who I live where I live because I wanted to be close to the trail, but you have to understand that you get that for 8 months. And then then the rest of the time, there's might be slowdown, and that's sort of what it is.
Exactly.
But, so go back to like, where do we start? I do think that there's some value of getting just some basic information on some different sidewalk ordinances, right? And let's,
I'm right now.
Yeah.
Of the actual number of total miles of sidewalk in town,
Yeah.
Mhm.
total miles, sidewalk, I have that. We're just double checking it to make sure we're up to date.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna say, because part of with the agenda, I mean, I looked at the agenda and I was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff to do. Then I saw stuff the town staff's gonna do. I was like, oh, it looks like but they're handling quite a bit of that. So, but what could we do as an ad hoc to like help push stuff forward?
what?
Get you a few more people?
2 more people in my office.
Oh.
No,
They were
we're
looking-
talking like when the budget comes.
Brian was pretty tight on the budget this year. He was- I'm doing my best.
I do have a question. What about issues? What are some of the issues that come across your desk in the winter, I'm guessing, or maybe over the course of a year? What are the issues about sidewalks that do come up that we need to be aware of?
Trip and falls.
Yeah,
People don't snow plow it.
Brian Conley doesn't maintain his sidewalk all the time, doesn't clear the snow in time.
looks good.
But you know, like, I'm just using. it as
Yeah,
an
yeah.
example, like,
I know.
hey, my neighbor, what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
What are you gonna do? And the police have to get involved, because, you know, I go knock on the door, they don't know why.
Mhm.
Police have to get involved, it's really a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, again, like I say to the people, like, go knock on his door, maybe he needs help.
Hmm,
Or maybe something happened, they physically can't do it.
yeah.
Help them out, I don't have, you know, again, like, I don't have to, it's not my side, I don't wanna get in trouble, and I don't want, what if I do it?
Have we had any slips and falls or anything
not-
worse than that?
You,
But they're not our sidewalks.
Okay, there.
Yeah, yeah, it's-
you're,
Right,
Yeah.
but then that gets put on the property owner.
yeah. And that's why people complain that, you know, it's in the homeowner's best interest to clear it, because
Yeah.
if they don't, and so we'll go out for zoning and try to get them to clear it. And then, you know, in the not snow related, if a sidewalk has gotten to an extent that it's really in bad shape, we'll come out and we will tell them to replace it. And
Mhm.
we've done that at
you-
Unionville, handful of times.
Yeah, you're at the farm, have it right down there. You know, keep around, down, sidewalk. You know, trying to get away, because you have $8,000 you wanna spend on
Yeah.
replacement. It's not cheap
Hmm,
to get somebody to go, how long is it gonna take you to do a pad yourself? How many bags of concrete are you gonna mix up?
Yeah, so we try to, but that's issues but, you know, unless it's like really, really in bad shape. And one of the things we're gonna have to address, and I think we're gonna have, and I don't know if Jay Toolin is still listening on this, is that we have a handicapped population,
mhm.
and the way that so many of the residents travel is on sidewalks that are privately owned sidewalks that haven't been totally maintained.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say they're in awful condition. Maybe some of them are, but it's different for someone on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they would like to see those sidewalks fixed.
Repaired, yeah.
And it's a neighborhood, it's not the town sidewalks. And again, now, that's an issue.
Could you clarify? Because I don't know
Yeah.
the full answer. So if a sidewalk needs to be repaired, is that something that the town will fix and charge the homeowner back?
You can't.
We typically do not do
Okay.
that, but we
I didn't
can
know
do that. Yeah, we can do that.
So it's up to the homeowner to bring in whoever they want to fix their section.
Yeah,
So they're all over the place in terms of what they look like.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, it's town that entrance kind of liability if the year after something happens to the sidewalk and you were the one that repaired it, or we now on the
Right,
hook or something.
basically it's for a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have some of that going on
Mhm.
too, and then that goes again to the public good. It's, you know, and areas that we're going to a trail where we would want to maybe see maintenance, getting some sidewalks fixed, but then, you know, starting fresh again, making a policy decision of sidewalks are only going to be we're going to fix them and then only on the one side of the road.
Mhm.
You know, and then, I mean, but going back to, I think Russ, we're gonna try to figure out what percentage, right? So you're working on that. I think we need some sidewalk ordinances from like a West Hartford that has like a big sidewalk program to towns that don't run a sidewalk program.
Yeah.
And and then maybe someone that's similar to like a Farmington to try to find out what they do. And I mean, Kat, you did some research a while back, and Russ, I don't think we're unusual. Like, it's not like we're gonna be an outlier. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just it's an expensive, very difficult situation. And for how, you know, that, like you said, do people have $8,000 to fix their sidewalks?
I think Avon's similar. You go to some of the neighborhoods there, there's some that have sidewalks and some that don't, some that make sense. If you go right into their town center, you walk from like Luke's Donuts down, there's a sidewalk that goes and just stops. There's no real rhyme or reason to why it stops, it just stops. It's the same thing, just when the stuff built.
Right. Right. So I think we should try to get and see if there's anything in these sidewalk ordinances that make more sense to us, you know, some kind of thing. I think Russ will easily be able to give us like kind of like per square footage, right? How much it cost to do it. I think that we should start looking and bringing to the group what kind of group we want to have to solicit and do an RFP.
Mhm.
And then I think the other thing is potentially when you're saying about maybe you guys about maybe doing some homework, what I think would be helpful is maybe when we're going to do a PowerPoint about sidewalks, I mean, I just garbled out an hour worth of stuff that's wrong with it. I think we need to codify, like when we present to the public,
Mhm.
like what is actually the sidewalk? Like I think we need to start thinking about how we're going to start rolling out. Like, again, it's a complicated thing, roll out what this ordinance says, but honestly, we don't follow most of it.
Mhm.
Right, because we don't follow a lot of it because of financial burden.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's gonna, I mean, at some point we get to the conclusion of what the town wants, that we need to say, like, what do we currently have? What have we been told that we want? When
Right.
we get there,
yeah,
what does it cost?
right.
Yeah, that was just a question I was thinking of. How walkable does Farmington want to be?
Yeah,
Right.
right,
And your point about just making it connectable, but not entire.
right.
Russ, is the cost is the same to repair as to put down new, right?
Yeah, same thing.
Same cost, because you're taking up and putting down,
It's actually to repair, it's more expensive to go.
yeah, because you're pulling up the whole asphalt, yeah.
But I think we need to have some sort of thought that give the public an opportunity to come in and just talk about like what their interest is in sidewalks, whether they want them, don't want them. But I think we're gonna have to come up with some kind of presentation at the beginning. And like, what do we think is a good presentation to go through what exists? Like, again, I think that's something for you guys that being a resident, if you were a resident, what information would you like to know before, like, what are we missing?
Yeah.
Like, what information do we need to tell people? Because it's complicated and some of it, I don't think people really care that much about.
They don't care until they're asking, hey, can you put a sidewalk on my street?
Right.
And then we send them the information and you have to pay for it. You have to, you know. Right.
Well, it also depends on where we get, if we get to a thing, we could very well do a survey and it could be overwhelmingly like, leave us.
Yeah,
And then, okay, then we have to do our best with what we have presented here to get stuff that needs to be fixed, and then kind of move on. But if it's determined that people want this stuff, then at that point, it almost becomes, to your point, what is the public good? That would be the pitch, is to say, like, this is what you can get out of it. This is what you're spending, and this is what you're getting
right.
at. But I think knowing people being able to see like what we have for sidewalk, what part of it's town owned, and then what it means, what does it mean to own a sidewalk in town?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, something, yeah. Yeah, and again, I think basic information, I mean, if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, you're required you have insurance on it, liability, you're required to pave it, you're required to maintain it. Those are like pretty much givens.
Yeah.
And it's, if you're gonna get a new sidewalk, you're paying for it and not your neighbors.
Mhm.
It's really, and that again is another onion, is that really if you were gonna make any changes, does that really seem right? Is that you're only the people that are on the one side of the street pay for a new sidewalk? that doesn't seem like that's the way to do it.
If people on both sides actually.
When
Use it.
everybody's using it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to live in the neighborhood to use the side, like,
Right.
anybody could walk on the sidewalk.
Right.
Well, that's why if it connects to somewhere, that's more of like a public
public good.
good. So, but
What does the ordinance say? What do we think about sidewalk? And how would we go forward?
Mm.
yeah, and I think just in general, hearing, again, it's about, like you said, financial and willingness to pay.
And it's education.
Yeah, and regardless of what happens, if people really have an interest in sidewalks, people are going to pay, and it's either gonna be individual people are gonna pay, or the town, the town is gonna pay.
Most likely both.
Yeah,
And part of that process, so if I'm in a neighborhood right now and I get my neighbor and I have 20 people in my 20 houses. And they all want a sidewalk in my neighborhood. And I go and do this, a petition right
Yeah.
first. And then everybody agrees to pay their share, then it would come and it's a public hearing at TBZ
here,
here.
town council.
And then sidewalk goes in and people either pay directly or they can have like a low-
Assessment.
a lower assessment. It's like a
Low interest loan, yeah.
And then that process soup to nuts is for someone's what, 18 months, 24 months
It would be a long time, right? Yeah,
from like petition to getting the
Yeah,
sidewalk. It's
right.
3 years maybe.
yeah,
To construct.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, but there are kind of, again, there's so many layers of this onion. There's weird things, okay, so and Russ, tell me if I'm wrong, but at my understanding of how it used to be done, so your neighbors, you all say you want to have a sidewalk, except one off
Oh, yeah.
gentleman in the street doesn't want to have it.
Then, yeah, and
You-
my neighbor, he wouldn't mind me saying, is
Yeah.
the number one anti-sidewalk
Yeah.
person. in town.
So we come and have a public hearing. And council decides that sidewalk's going in,
Yeah.
and we're assessing his house. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He's getting it assessed, and he's paying for that sidewalk, he's maintaining it, and he has no choice. Now, the other thing we could do, the council could say, listen, there's some sort of public good here. Or that we as a town, we're gonna pay 50% of every sidewalk that goes in.
That would be, happen at the public hearing.
That's part of the ordinance now. So you could come in and say, okay, here's the sidewalk because it helps our handicap population. We are, as a town, going to do 50% of it. We're gonna assess the neighbors 50%. And you gentlemen who still didn't want it, we're gonna do it. You don't have to pay for it until you sell your house, but when you sell your house, we're getting the money.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of, and one of my problems has been, and it's just that the council and myself actually for this ordinance has quite a bit of authority, but we have no rhyme and reason of how we've done it. And so it's not fair. It's not, so until you get some, like, either you're doing it all the time and doing it the same way, or, at me, like it basically says here, if the town manager thinks it's a public good, we can put a sidewalk in and we can maintain it.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't seem like that's the right way to do it either.
Over.
Is that happening?
No,
Yeah.
no, because again,
Imagine Brian, if she said, hey, I'm putting a sidewalk. in
I know.
Because I think it's good. They come to you guys.
I was being a little
Yeah.
facetious about it,
And
but
you, and you're gonna be not very appreciative of her and go, oh, look, all these bad things that happen.
yeah,
That's not gonna happen.
yeah,
That's just.
Yeah, we're gonna put the sidewalk in, here's your bill for 10 grand and here's a shovel.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
yeah.
right, but there are, and again, I think the ordinance was written that way because there are so many one-offs.
Yeah,
There are so many one-offs, but I think it does go back to Russ. I think the bigger thing is that the bigger problem is we got to get the sidewalks that are there. Which ones are we keeping them all, and we getting them all up to some sort of standard, and who is doing that? And before we even start thinking about making new sidewalks all over.
I think that. Sidewalk program, say, okay, this year we're gonna put this many miles of sidewalk. Place them. Get them up to today's standard, be done with it,
hmm
and start to work on this. That would.
Yeah, I think that part. that finish line part makes sense to me, if that's what people want, to add that, you know, again, provided that's what people want. I think that part, I don't want to say easy, but I mean, to come up with like what the program will be going forward, and you said we're gonna, you know, again, if you do some repair and some whatever, just to get stuff up and going, but it's a matter of, can we get enough actual real feedback from people?
Yeah.
My only concern about this too is this an issue that it gets enough, you know, it's not a new school, right? People, you know, so like, is it an issue that gets enough eyeballs and enough feedback where we're getting like, you know, we get 500 respondents, is that really enough? You know what I mean? You want to get like.
I think in some ways you need like a professional, like a survey company
Well,
that
that's
does
I
does.
completely agree.
Yeah.
Because I know far too convoluted when I speak. Somebody who can ask the question in an efficient way to get a real dialed in answer. Do we want more sidewalks and at what expense? And you know,
Yeah.
And they have like statistics behind it that will get a good cross section of the town so that that is representative of the whole town.
yeah, great.
Right,
I was
like
just
we,
gonna ask if we're tracking sidewalk traffic the way we track road traffic.
no,
It's,
Impossible.
yeah,
You can do it on the trail.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know they do it on the trail with the little photo optic thing. Right.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, I know. I just was wondering if
No,
there was
I
anyone who
understand.
did that.
We talked about it years ago, but how would you ever contemplate?
Yeah. So many
Can you do a
sidewalks.
Traffic count,
Yeah,
you don't know. It's
But-
not like traffic, because people are using your roads every day.
yeah.
Not everybody walks every day.
but
Numbers, and you gotta come up with you gotta come
Yeah.
up with a number, okay. Hey, I had 10 people use that sidewalk today, is that the number?
Yeah.
400 use it today, is that the number? Like, you don't know. No, that's the problem with it.
And it's seasonal too.
Absolutely.
well, two things. One, like Keith, what we've learned is that you don't even need a huge part of the population. The survey people know that how to, like,
Okay.
if they do it, you
Yeah.
can find out, but it would be curious. Again, the first thing, like you said, is that even going to the maintenance end of it, and the question would be, you know, does in some, however they would word it, would you be willing to support the town going in and fixing all the sidewalks and starting fresh? And people come back and be like, no, let the homeowners do it.
Hmm.
Go back, and then we go back to following what our ordinance says, and we send letters to everyone, and they have X amount of time to fix their sidewalks because it's their responsibility. I mean, you could very much get a group that says, if I got a survey and I didn't have a sidewalk in front of my house, and said, are you willing to pay to have sidewalks maintained? I mean, to fix all the sidewalks in town?
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be no.
Because it's that,
Again, it comes down to, yeah, but you got the sidewalk, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
But is it a public good?
Exactly.
well, I think, well, and that's, and that's true too. It's because there are some sidewalks that are in the sole interest of the neighborhood. Again, not to pick on
Yeah.
Woodside is a street very similar to the Highlands. Do they need a sidewalk? Really, probably not as a neighborhood, but they have a sidewalk and
But that's probably
it's
when
very well used.
When that Woodside went in, subdivision rule regulation
Yeah.
changed, and you had to require to put a sidewalk in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And then they put that, so when Woodside and Butternut and all that went in, that whole piece of property, they had to drill a well, because the water, Union water didn't have enough water to supply, so there was a well there to supply the water system.
yeah,
That's where that whole swampy area is.
Yeah.
That's why there's that, but that's all open space. The town gets all the, swampland. That town, that's why it's a town sidewalk there. So they have a sidewalk from Plainville Avenue all the way down into the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
They have somewhere to walk. But it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the people on Great Oak, they were on me. There's 12, 14 houses on Great Oak. You gotta put crosswalks in, you gotta put crosswalks in. Why don't we have crosswalks here? Finally put the crosswalks in. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
But they aren't maintaining, no one on Great Oak is maintaining the sidewalk that they walk on.
yeah. Yeah, so that's the difference between the public good. So where's that line get drawn? Because I generally think, and I could be wrong, but my assumption is if you had said to somebody, we're gonna pay for it, we're gonna put a new sidewalk on, we're paying for it, but you gotta shovel it. Yeah, I think most people, okay, I get it, but it's like, but people, to get a bill for 10 grand for nothing, but sorry, you feel like it's nothing, and maybe some people would feel like it's being taken away.
Right.
Because it's not like, if you put it, $10,000 in your bathroom, you sell your house, you probably get that back, or, you know, you put a pool in or something like that. Do you get that back for a sidewalk? Maybe you do, if your whole neighborhood has, but I don't know. And that's where people might look at that.
Right, and well, and I also think we have to in some ways kind of come up with what we think is the overarching philosophy about town good, because
Mm.
one thing that we've learned about surveys and you learn in life, if you start asking the question and you get the answer, and for instance, you say, people don't want us to spend town money to maintain everyone's sidewalk, to fix everyone's sidewalk. And all of a sudden we say, okay, no one wants us to do that, so we're gonna start billing all these people. That's what the survey told us and that's what we want, but we kind of think it's a public good. And so we say, we don't care what the survey says, we're gonna raise your taxes and we're gonna do this, then that's not a good look either.
Well, I agree. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I would be very, well, I'm a pro sidewalk person, but I'm open to being told no. You know, if that's what, you know, there's a lot of our town that is walkable without sidewalk. There's a lot of our town that could really use a sidewalk. But I'm open, if the general thought is no, I would just be surprised. I would, the way that our town invests in things like this, I think it's something that the general public would probably be interested in. That's my guess, but I could be wrong, and I'm open to being wrong. I'm very open to- If that is the response,
Smart
of the survey.
By a two-part process, I mean, do we want to first find out, and maybe we combine them too, but do we want to find out just how much the town wants walkability and connectability? And then after we find out what we want, do we say, are we willing to pay the price for that kind of?
I think so. I
connectability?
think that's all in
That's
part of the survey.
I
Oh,
think it
yeah,
has to be in one
yeah.
survey, 'cause you
Yeah,
Once
can't-
they're all in
yeah,
one, yeah.
Yeah, if
But-
someone's like, yeah.
But the
you
other.
know it's coming out of the.
But the other thing too is, which again is why I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at you, is that kind of.
Only
Kind of. Is that I think I agree that as a question by itself is you'd probably have a lot of support for it. Where I think you're gonna struggle is that when you put that up against other priorities that we need in this town, I think sidewalks are gonna go down to the bottom of the
And
list.
that's fair.
That's where I think, and I think, the only reason why I say that is because everybody that has sat up here and has done that with the sidewalks. And we, as the policy board, has done that as the sidewalks. So I would think that there's a representation of this group that you're gonna find in the public, is that when it comes to doing a school and spending $3 million or doing this or doing that, sidewalks always seem to make it to the bottom of the
Do
priority
you
list.
think that's because in general, elected officials know that being sidewalk hall monitors is an unpopular thing? So to send a bill out, so to say,
Yeah,
Russ, like, if
Yeah.
someone's grabbing the gavel, go after them. I want those sidewalks fixed and send the bills out.
Right.
Maybe that's just one of those things where people out here
I-
have been squeamish about doing that because it's an unpopular thing to send people out to collect bills.
yeah. Well, I think it's that, and I think it's because we are not a community that's full of sidewalks. I
Mhm.
think if you were a community full of sidewalks already, it wouldn't bounce down to the lowest part of the priority, but
It's not all for one.
What-
all,
yeah.
it's branched out.
yeah. And so I think that's why I think that you always, when you're saying, well, if we had this or this, or you had to weigh this or that, there's too many people that don't have the sidewalk, so they're gonna vote no already for it because they don't have it.
But if we got the survey back, with yes, we want to move in this direction of more sidewalks or sidewalks everywhere, then at that point it becomes a community-wide thing.
Yes,
And we can come up with a priority, but 'cause right
yes,
now, I think the way it is, it's just like, oh, well, those people have sidewalks, they gotta deal with it. I don't have
Yeah,
to deal with it.
right.
Or, you know, it's a very, it's a,
and I think to be fair, I do think that there is a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of spots here where there probably would be support to get people to the trail system, because you can.
That would be the strongest.
I think that you can, and I think there's probably a fine line where you don't have to have sidewalk the Highlands because you can walk to the trails, but there are a lot of different spots in town where you can get people to the trail system. And I think that there would be support for that because the trail system, you can almost go everywhere.
There
on
you
it.
can walk safely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't have to be on the road or sidewalk.
yeah, and you can almost get anywhere.
Yeah. You
So,
can get from one end of town to the other, almost.
yeah, so, I mean,
The other thing that set the expectation of how long that program will go on,
for maintenance,
player placement, repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a program that was ongoing, like similar to a paving project, like you said.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's our paving project, our paving program is every year. Right? Never ending because of maintaining a road. Does that from the sidewalk program?
And how long does a sidewalk last in comparison? About,
We have sidewalks that are up. No,
But do you get,
but.
yeah,
you generally get more years out of a sidewalk than you do a road?
Correct.
yeah.
But it's not getting pounded,
Yeah.
you know, like a road does.
Mhm.
It's just typically, only time you have is cars going over it, across the driveway. Those usually are being up and then quicker anyway. So you have to put perception.
So what do you think? You think for maybe the next meeting, we gather some information, we do some homework on the ordinance so we
Yeah.
can start working what the PowerPoint's gonna be.
Mhm.
And then I think somewhere along the lines, we should probably start having some kind of a public meeting just to hear people.
Right. And the PowerPoint is the presentation to the public.
Public, yeah. And then still in the meantime, start looking about RFPs, meaning get what kind of group we want.
Yep.
And also kind of starting, trying to take this in like phases, I think, but we can I still think we need to get public input, and we can do that at the same time of doing
Yeah.
some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do have a question. Are there any sections of this chapter that you think we should be focusing on, or are we gonna look at the entire thing?
you should look at the entire thing. I mean, parts of it aren't bad.
Yeah.
What about other?
Sadly, I read it over the weekend.
You're having all the power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the part she likes.
I know, remind
If I
me,
had to guess.
I know it's unusual for me to give up power. Yeah, the town manager shall be responsible for laying out, constructing, repairing, replacing, and implementing the process of assessing of special benefits. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
Can you explain that?
Monitoring of damage, town engineer should be permitted to enter and inspect premises subject to regulation under the article as often as necessary.
You have some power
Sounds
too.
like an important job.
But but one of the things, again, this is probably more complicated, but we did, and something I think both Russ and I are pretty proud of is that, and it took a long time, was we had some problems with how we did assessments for sewers, right? And pump stations and how we did our treatment plant.
Mhm.
And we set up a committee similar to this that really went through it. And one of the things I'm looking at too is that maybe possibly getting an intern for us that can help do some research and look at
Okay.
some different things for us and do some of the legwork. But it took us, Russ, how long? Probably 2 years,
Mhm.
but we updated our sewer ordinance and it's one of the best things we ever did. And,
Is
but
there
it
anything we
took,
learned from that that might apply?
I was gonna say, that's a similar thing, right? Because only some people get it, but it is a public good to have.
the difference is that how much of the town is sewered.
Hmm.
Yeah. We have about 180 miles of sewer. We have about 120 miles, 25 miles of roadway. And we are less than that for sidewalk.
Mhm.
Thereabouts. I think it comes back to, we got that ordinance for the sewer, public good, what's the benefit, like the treatment plant? That only benefit just the people who have sewer? No, it benefits the town itself, pay for education, commercial, right? There are a lot of towns in the state of Connecticut who have a moratorium that can't, no more business, no more housing, like housing. Can't take it because our sewer plant can't afford it.
Mm.
That's not a good business model, right? That's why we got our treatment plant created. To make sure that we are attracted to business, we are attracted to other, the mall, right?
Yeah.
These things help pay our taxes, it makes us a successful town. Pump station, is that beneficial just to that neighborhood? If other neighborhoods tie into it, it's too big of a number just to add on to that one, 40 homes, it might go back to Fairview and Orchard. 3 times we went back to get them sewer. They could have had free sewer with the mall, but they chose to fight it, and the mall said no. Mall spent over about $54,000 a house to sewer Maple Ridge and Goodrich. Within 2 pump stations. And they did the mall expansion,
To that, oh, sorry.
but then we should spend. Any location in town that isn't already sewer, there's a reason why. It's tough location, tough material, you can't get there.
But one of the things that is different about the sewers, and this was a neat part of our project, is one of the things that happened is that when you sewered the town back in what was the 60s, when the most of it was done, is that a ton of it came from federal grants.
Mhm.
And so we tried to figure out what that dollar amount. So now, like if you're getting a sewer, we did all sorts of research and said that value is back like 5 or 8 years ago was $10,000. So now you can have a sewer if you want, and you have to pay $10,000 and you can pay for it over 10 years. And the reason, and that it cost a lot more than that, but the reason why it was is because the majority of the town was sewered by federal grants and it was almost free. And we did a whole study to see what that difference was. And again, it's different than sidewalks, but my point is that it took a lot of time, but we did clean it up and it really has helped us a lot by having it. Cause it was like this, honestly, it was just a mess. It was a mess on who pays for what.
And to the point that Russ just brought up, how important is walkability and connectability? How important is that to businesses in town? Like in the
Right.
industry park in these centers?
Right. Well, and that's why we have the sidewalks there and that's why we put the grants in.
Yeah,
We've kind of made that unilateral decision that it is important.
and it does benefit the town.
Right. So,
Right.
Hmm,
Farming.
yeah,
Now you have those sections that are not sidewalk. And sometimes you drive on Route 4, you see people walking across the center and turn around and they're going back.
Hmm.
They would use building. So they turn around and go back. But you can't connect.
yeah. We're that close.
But I would too to
Hmm.
connect. Where you put the sidewalk in front of Dunkin' Donuts and dry cleaner.
Yeah.
There.
Mhm.
Oh, there's things that are gonna be state, planning and zoning is gonna have to get involved with.
Yeah.
Their regulations, are we gonna really, if we're gonna peel the onion, we gotta peel it and get everything, so everything is. It gels, everything's in concert with each other. So that we don't create something that planning and zoning is gonna, be in opposition to.
Right.
We're saying to do this, but planning and zoning says you don't have to, so the planning and zoning regs have to be updated. Be in concert with the sidewalk, right?
and it still goes to how much work are we gonna do before we survey the public for some general information about what they want us to do?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna take some time to elect all the different ordinances throughout the town.
Yeah, and codify 'em.
CC, that's it.
yeah,
Develop the product. And then break that all down and create a matrix to what information is within those ordinances and financially come up with that. There's a lot of legwork here to get started, so.
but I do think we can do that, and in the meantime, start working on kind of what the public presentation would be. And I think, like I said, if the help where it would be is like, what would you gentlemen think that we need? We want public input to say what they want for sidewalks, but I think we should put like some basic things about, in the presentation and then just hear what they have to say.
Yeah. Well, I just to let people know, this is the goal, we feel this is important. This is the goal of what we're doing here, is try to figure out what direction town wants to go in. What, how do we want to approach sidewalks for the next 50 years? And
Yeah.
That's the sale. Do you want to be involved in how we're going to be kind of planning this? Or if there is going to be a plan, or
Do we, yeah. And who pays? Who pays?
And what that might look like.
Yeah. Who pays and the priority?
Hmm.
What?
A big question every year. It's
Yeah.
like just in general.
Hmm.
So. Yeah, that's what
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
All right, so do you want to look at some meetings?
Yeah.
So we thought that potentially that these meetings would be at night because of we do probably want the public to have access to be able to come to them.
Mhm.
So we could do 7, we could do 6. I don't know what people are interested in.
And you also have to balance the other committee, other subcommittee, firehouse.
Yeah, the
doing
firehouse
it.
one, they're gonna do it during the day,
Oh,
so.
Get on that one instead.
It's a better one. This one's very hard.
Looking to do this Tuesday night meeting.
Um. Be like on the opposite of the town
weeks.
council.
This is a council.
This is
night.
this is a council night meeting.
I would,
the 4th or the 18th?
Is-
anytime we cancel a town council, anytime we look like we're canceling a town council meeting, sneak it in there.
Right,
Yeah.
I think the 4th is too
Go
soon.
Yeah.
That's a week.
yeah. How about the
18th?
18th? How about the 18th of February? Does that work?
There's a historic district council meeting
What
here
was it?
at 5.
No,
Evan,
I'm sorry, Brian, what was that?
I said historic district is in here at 5.
You
It
think
should-
like, does a 6 o'clock?
7 works for me. Yeah, hour.
So what time do
Yeah.
they start?
They start at 5.
Do you want to do like a 6 o'clock?
Sure.
6 o'clock on February 18th,
Okay.
6 PM. All right. I mean, this is gonna be a long stretch, so I mean, we're gonna go
Sidewalk
through,
committee.
in March, we got a million budget meetings, but. February 18th, what do you think? Try the 11th is the big count. I mean,
So-
the 4th is, I'm away that week.
So maybe the March 18th,
18th.
give some time in between with
Yeah.
budget and everything to get things together.
How about Tuesday, March 18th? How does that look for everyone? At 6, yeah. March
March 18th.
18th, 6
Bless you.
PM. That's a Tuesday night again.
Do 18, 3/18.
Yeah. And the opposite would be April 1st would be the first.
Well, in April, do we have the, don't we normally have the meeting on the
Budget going on?
Monday,
Oh,
the
yeah,
public hearing?
on the 7th.
And then we have the annual town meeting. So we're on Mondays. That week a lot of the time.
Eighth or the 15th.
15th,
That's, I think, the break, right? I'm out of town that day too, actually. How about the 8th, April 8th?
I'm pretty sure that's the week where we have the Monday.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Should we do April 8th? Why don't we stop there?
That's a
put-
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday. Why don't we put that in and as the meetings start, we can see how they go. If we need more, or
Okay.
like we could add a meeting or. See what we're doing. Yeah. Like I said, think about how you want to attack it. I'm open to. Different ways to do it. I don't, it's a lot, so.
I think that a sales pitch to a like, maybe at the next meeting, we're gonna try to set up a date to really have the public
Public
come in
hearing,
here.
yeah,
And then, so the next meeting, we need to come up with sort of what
the public,
the sales, what sort of questions are we asking the public?
Yeah.
What sort of feedback are we looking for that public hearing?
right,
Like what sort of direct things we take? So we're gonna take that information and try to put that, we're gonna present to the public when we're actually looking for a survey, right?
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think like we have to try to see if we can figure out about our survey company. And then, I think it could be a combination of like maybe having something go out in newsletters where people have an opportunity to respond, but then actually doing like some kind of formalized survey. And then part of that's gonna be coming up with questions to ask the survey. What questions is the survey guy gonna?
Are there companies that specialize in this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
When we did this for the high school project, we have a RFP that we sent out. Companies came in, we interviewed the companies. We have to set the parameters as to like what their scope would be.
Mhm.
But then they give a presentation, we select one, we help them build questions, they put together so it is a pretty.
That's a
extensive
process and stuff, and we're gonna have to put money in the budget to pay for it. So that's another thing.
Is there when's the next town newsletter?
Soon.
In like the next couple weeks.
That's probably it. So what, like May?
Then we do one right before the budget. Mhm. Where we put the actual budget and the questions and everything.
But we probably should put some money in the upcoming budget, one for the survey company and also some marketing to, if we're really trying to get the public, like to do maybe a newsletter.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do we want a webpage?
Yeah, or some, yeah,
About
something
this.
like, yeah, we talked, Devin and I talked about that already.
Yeah, adding a link to the website's not.
No, no,
Yeah, we on our own website.
Yeah.
that's fine.
I didn't know if we could just sneak in like a blurb in the whatever newsletter.
Yeah.
Say like, hey, public hearing, or
Right.
sorry, hey, public meeting about sidewalks.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I
And
think,
if we
it-
had a page that we could send them to that might have the ordinance on as it stands.
Yeah.
and some simple language about what that means.
well, I think that's kind of like what we need to have when we do our presentation,
Yeah.
just some simple language, like, I think we have it, it's bullet points of like what this ordinance actually says.
Do we have that already?
No, but that's
Yeah.
not that hard to do,
Yeah.
I don't think. But again, like Kat, you were saying, is even to get the survey company, you gotta go out for an RFP, you have to have them come in, we have to interview companies, then we have to pick, then we have to come up with questions, it's a
And we
thing.
can't just say if we just work with these people for the high school, they were great. they were in-
Well, the company we work, the company we work
I'm
with
so
for the
naive.
high school is actually out of business, so,
Ah, well,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah,
so that complicates things.
yeah,
Right, so-
so anyway,
We look at that.
yeah. All right,
Right.
so, hey,
So we'll.
It's gonna be
we'll do
fun.
This next.
yeah, be fun.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you for all you do on this.
thanks, it's, like I said, it's time, I
Yeah.
think, to do something, or look at it, so. Okay, all right, and so what time is it, 8:15, we're done?